Yep.
How about the boys side of the lacrosse here? The key returning players from 2011, from what I see here. All-American Mark Riley, goalie Lucas
You're
Davis.
a little familiar
Yeah,
with
we know him pretty well.
You can pump him up a little bit.
We know him pretty
there.
well. I'll be glad to do that. That's not a problem. Not a problem.
Doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
That's right. You know it. Absolutely. Goaltender Lucas Davis.
Yep.
Also Mike Vespa, Jamie McGill at attack, James Caruso, Nico Pinapento. But some bad news here for the boys lacrosse team. Just found out.
Breaking news here.
Pretty much.
Trumpet this a little bit here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Mike Pinapento, a sophomore, will miss pretty much the entire season. It's a good 10 to 12 week recovery with a broken collarbone. So out for the majority of the season. And that was a big loss there at the midfield position.
Yeah. I really think when you look at the sport of lacrosse, so many games are won and lost from the midfield positions. It's all about speed. It's all about that attack.
Correct.
And, obviously with, everybody will be thinking about the absence of Will Stenberg this year and what he brought to that program, in the last 4 years, which was really unparalleled in their history. And obviously I think Nico Pinapento, his brother, will be able to fill some of those scoring duties there. But you got to get the ball upfield and get it into the hands of your playmakers, and that's a big loss there. And it also affects the depth. Obviously, some of the younger players, those sophomores, juniors, and freshmen perhaps, are going to need to fill some roles there and log some minutes.
Oh, no doubt about that. And the boys lacrosse team, head coached by Dave Wainwright since 2003. He has a state title under his belt, and
girls soccer as well, I should say. Dover Sherborne also coming away with the D3 title.
D3. Okay,
yes,
there you go. Okay,
earlier this fall.
Yeah. He's a pretty good coach then, Coach Wainwright.
Not a bad job.
Yeah, he's going to lock him up to a long-term deal, I guess, right? Coach Wainwright, though, I mean, every year what he has done with this team, they've qualified for the playoffs every year since he has been there. And not only have they qualified, they've gone pretty deep here too. I mean, they've come very close, state semifinals, Eastern Mass finals, but not semifinals, but not the state championship itself since 2003. So he's come very close on numerous occasions. That's also a credit to him, though, scheduling tough opponents here. And it begins on April 7th against Hingham at Hingham, which is a Saturday morning.
That's not a bad way to start the season there.
That's a tough game, and that's on grass.
Absolute great game. Should be Kevin Blair, another All-American candidate there. A very dynamic attack. That's going to be a tough test right out of the chute for them.
Yeah, that's not easy. And then Bishop Girton comes here on Tuesday, April 17th. We'll have it for you here on the Needham channel at Catholic Memorial. And then, of course, Wellesley comes here. We'll talk about them being the higher-ranked team. Another non-conference game, Duxbury, St. John's Prep, who knocked Needham out last year in the tournament. They come here the first weekend in May, and then they do go to Severian for that last non-conference game. So I give Coach Wainwright and the boys lacrosse team credit for scheduling these non-conference opponents, not the easiest ones of the bunch.
Yeah, no, that's an absolutely killer out-of-conference schedule there. Obviously, you start with Duxbury, the #1 team in the state, the #4 team in the nation in our preseason polls, as the second week has gone on for the rest of the country. It hasn't started here yet, but I mean, it starts right there. And again, as you said, some of those other teams, St. John's Prep, obviously, no stranger with everything the way it unfurled last year. Would have. I just feel bad if Will would have been at full power and 100% and had 2 arms in that game. It would have been very interesting to see how they would have been able to, I thought, create some matchup problems for the Eagles in that game. But obviously St. John's Prep, again, another team that is perennially, in the state semifinals or in the state finals.
Correct.
So obviously another great test there. And then, of course, you get a look in conferences too. That big conference game against Wellesley. That's just going to be. I'm really excited for that one already.
It's a Wednesday afternoon. Get out of work early if you can. April 25th, 4 o'clock, and
absolutely.
They may have to move that one up to a night game if that's going to be a big game. To
get under the lights over there. Maybe move in some of those construction lights. Or
see, well, Needham has a permanent one now.
Style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I mean, it would be great to have it. Needham and Wellesley under the lights. But Needham, the boys lacrosse team, where would you rank them nationally? I know you talk about Wellesley and Duxbury being up there. Where do you rank Needham nationally?
Well, they're right there with them. I mean, again, you look at the national poll, slightly behind Wellesley. Obviously, they're Bay State rival, but they're in our Fab 50 to start the season, which I think is an impressive accomplishment. And speaks to not only the talent, but also the depth of the talent that's found on this team. There will be some struggles, as you mentioned, with the smaller Panepinto going out, but I think this team has all the components. From the back end, you mentioned with Lucas Davis returning in pipes, I think that's such an important piece to have for a lacrosse team, to be able to build from the back out. I think they're very sound defensively. Again, I think the midfield is the one place where I think the depth could be an issue there. But again, as much as we talked about Will Stenberg and what he brought to the program, you're not going to be able to replicate players like him, obviously. But I think people might underestimate what they might be able to bring offensively even without Will. And I think they'll be fine. And
we just talked about it with the girls. Do you have a couple of maybe top 3 state in the boys, best boys lacrosse players in the state to keep an eye on this year?
Well, one person I would say I'm looking to make a big jump is Nico Panepinto. As I already mentioned, obviously filling some big shoes there as the primary guy in that attack. But he was such a big part of Will's success too. I think getting him the ball and being able to play with speed. But then, of course, one kid I already talked about, Kevin Blair from Hingham. I think he's going to be one of the more dynamic attacks. And of course, we have to talk about Duxbury. I mean, it's mind-boggling. 12 Division I recruits in that senior class. I mean, some of those Division I recruits won't even see all that much. Taking into account what they have in talent and projectability into college, these kids won't even see that much playing time as you might see some of their contemporaries at other schools, just because they're so deep. And of course, I really think that starts on the back end with those long stips. With Matt O'Keefe, the senior quarterback that led them to a Super Bowl. Probably one of the best long sticks in the nation. Also Riley Nathan. I mean, you can just go down the list. The long stick mids are really the best in the nation, perhaps, with Nathan and Burke, both going to Penn State and Yale, respectively. They might be the 2 best long stick midfielders in the nation on one team. So it's very interesting to see how Chris Sweet, the Dragons head coach, is able to use them in very dynamic ways, both offensively and defensively. I think they bring matchup problems to everybody. And then, of course, you also got to talk about Wellesley. And it starts at the back with them with Connor Darcy, who's a Penn State commit in the cage. Really one of the best goalkeepers in the country. And a tribute to Duxbury. I mean, every time you hear boys lacrosse high school in the state of Massachusetts, or even girls for that matter too, you think of Duxbury right away. Absolutely.
Right? They're like the New York Yankees of sport. They really are. I mean,
Chris Sweet's a big Red Sox fan, though, even though he grew up in New York. Though.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, good to know. All right, okay. I mean, it's just like, obviously, they breed them while they're young. They really do. And the youth lacrosse program, I think, speaks volumes for what they've done over the years, Duxbury, and the way that it's a tribute to the coach and the entire community there that start them so young and they work their way up, and that's why they're so talented at the high school level.
Absolutely. That's really the key component to any of these programs, is that the feeder systems are there to support them. It starts from, I mean, the kids in Duxbury, it's a way of life for them. They pick up the sticks when they're 7, 8 years old, and their goal is to make that varsity team once they get to the high school and contribute there. And that competition starts at a very young age, and it's because of a lot of hard work put in a lot of people, though, not only the high school head coaches, but the people who work at the youth levels, and the junior varsity, the freshman teams as well. That's very important to these programs and their success. And not only that, but how it's been able to spread throughout the state. And again, I think it's only going to spread from here.
And speaking of the state, too, give me your top 3 or 5 teams to watch. And boy, are we doing another tease here for the poll?
I think you can peg Duxbury as the prohibitive number one. I think I'd be lying if I didn't say that. I mean, it's their game to lose. I think the question is going to be who comes up and challenges them in D1. Is it going to be Needham? Will it be, you see Bill Ricca, St. John's Prep, a couple teams that we already talked about there that are perennially at that stage. I think there's a lot to be decided there. But I still think Duxbury is the crown standard. And then Division II, Medfield, potentially, knocked off their throne. Is this the year that Wellesley will finally come and beat them in the postseason and get to Harvard Stadium? It's a big question there.
Okay, all right, good stuff. And of course, the Needham-Duxbury game right here on the Needham channel. That's Saturday, April 28th at Memorial Park, 6:45 game. The St. John's Prep game is Saturday, May 5th, 7 o'clock. At Memorial Park. And the Wellesley game, just to rewind a little bit, Wednesday, April 25th, 4 o'clock at Memorial Park. All those games right here on the Needham channel.